It's another edition of Perspectives with me, Reggie James. Enjoy.
Richard, thank you so much for that very detailed explanation of digital brand governance, and also, some of the history behind it and why it's sort of so important. Am I right in assuming that you deal with a lot of technical people within these organizations? Are they normally CTOs or the technical people looking after those websites and domains in the governance side of things?
Yes.
Or
And more.
and more, right?
One of my favorite jobs I had a long time ago, I worked for O2, and just temporarily to start with, but they put me in charge of the homepage. And the reason I tell the story is because it's a good one. That when you're in charge of a homepage, and I would recommend as top tip, have an owner of a homepage, right? So somebody is absolutely responsible.
That's the responsibility, yeah.
And it was great when I was O2 because I owned the homepage. So when someone on the marketing team wanted to get some real estate on the homepage, I'd get coffee, pastries, and there'd be a queue at the desk. People wanting to get their promotion, their banner for broadband or whatever it would be. But it really opens your eyes. And the reason for saying it is you get to meet everyone. And that's what a good website, if you're on the homepage, does. Right? It's a meeting point for the whole business. It is the brochure. It's the communication vehicle. And therefore, everybody has a vested interest. And therefore, if you're a consultant, as we are now, and you're helping someone improve their website, their digital brand asset, you need to almost meet everyone. The technical team, because they provide the website. It's the marketing team whose job it is to promote it, because you've got to understand and shape their channels, then working with them on the content. But there's a brand owner you've got to take into account. There's all sorts of information and teams that you need to work with. And it's that multiple team situation. It's the complexity, but just humans. We're not very good at working with you. So you work with all of them, particularly the technical provisions. CTOs have got to work with because they've got to serve out and look after this platform of websites. And they need to talk to the CMOs, whose job it is to actually promote it. So we're ever having all those conversations internally. And as a good consultant, we need to be good at navigating our way through the organizations. And that's what I've done for the 30 years.
Fantastic.
I've been corporate enough to do it, but understand how to get things done. We just happen to be implementing digital marketing solutions for the benefit of these clients.
Absolutely. Now, more recently, it seems there's a transition where it's a lot of CMOs, chief marketing officers, who seem to be taking this under the belt. Either the remits within organizations have changed. We all know that, no organizations stay the same, but there seems to be a shift. And certainly I'm hearing a lot more dialogue when we're consulting and we're talking to boards, at CMOs almost invariably will have it on their agenda. We talk about, and amongst other things, that marketing piece, because the digital footprint, which includes the website, is so important for their clients, that there's been a renaissance, if you like, back into SEO. As Mark Twain said, I think it's the rumors of my death have been highly exaggerated, or whatever that term is. But I think I've had a penny for every time somebody said that SEO is dead. I'd have, I'd have £12.50 or something. But the reality of it is that it's very much, it's very much not in vogue, but it's very much at the top of a lot of priorities for CMOs now. So why do you think that is? Why is it that CMOs now are becoming far more focused on this aspect in amongst all the other things they have to do? Is this something that you're finding as well, that rather than just purely dealing with technical individuals where a lot of the CEOs sit, but it's now moving across to other departments, especially within the marketing field?
Let's be clear, SEO is alive and kicking. It's changing, but at its heart, it's about the best practice of aligning your assets, your digital assets, using best practice to best effect. Now we could talk about brand, presentation, insert, and that's where it's changing. Is that it's search, it's presentation. We might talk about AI overview in a minute, about how you're seeing it manifest and change. But at its heart, it's about the tech, it's about the content, it's about the brand. And those are things you do need to control because they span across channel, and therefore the best practice and the techniques that you use to get all that right, which means getting the data, reporting on it, measuring it, getting the control, right, before you get the performance. For me, that cuts across. SEO, yeah, it might be seen as a channel, but its techniques and methods apply well. So if you get that right, if you get your SEO right, you're probably going to do your PPC better, right? Quality score.
Absolutely, yes.
Etc. You're probably going to produce better emails for your email marketing, right? So it crosses the disciplines, and the way to do it well crosses the different channels, but therefore you've got a multi-dimensional problem to solve. And that's why the CMOs need to talk to the CTOs and the CFOs. And the CFOs that's out there, they know the cost spend on those expensive agencies that are doing the paid search. CMOs just want to promote stuff, so they want to have the right channel mix and make sure they're doing what they can. And they don't know they need to fix half of it before they start just promoting it and doing the upside. And then you've got the technical teams who are there, just trying to provide a service and just keep the websites out there. And you need to have the joint conversation between them. And the only way to join the conversation up is through the data and through the SEO thing. And that's why it won't go out of fashion. No, it's clearly search is going to change, the way customers interact and the digital experience will change. But the fundamental provision of strong, well-controlled brand assets that promote your brand, that won't change. And it's about controlling them before you can actually work out how to make them work better for you.
Makes absolute sense. Really, I think the reality of this is that reporting on these things, which I know your tool does very well, is becoming more and more prevalent because nobody wakes up one day. Say you're a Nestle, or say you're whatever. Say you're selling software or whatever it might be. No buyer wakes up one day, has a yawn, stretches their arms, and says, "Oh, I'm going to buy that." It's a journey that they take. And I think one of the impressive things that I've been lucky enough to see your tool in the back end and some of the reporting that you do is that you can really share some of that. I mean, you touched on a very, very fundamental point that by getting the SEO right, getting those understanding keywords, understanding the landing page, understanding where people move across the site, it's going to improve your quality score on your page search. It's going to improve the conversion rate of somebody landing on there. It's going to improve, as you say, your email, all these other, and your messaging and various other things, because you know what's driving people to, you're not second guessing, you know what's being driven to the website, but also the attribution element as well is actually very, very key, because just because PPC, paid ad, may have been the click that led to a conversion, you have the backup of that data, if I'm not wrong, to say, well, actually, they spent about 15 minutes on this page on your website, dwelling and really getting some research. And then maybe 20 days later, they clicked on that, but they've done a lot of research. Is that some of the kind of data you get back? Is that some of the stuff you share with clients? Are these the kind of things that you talk to your clients about and the tool does?
Absolutely is. And you and I would agree, Reggie, that attribution was almost the holy grail, wasn't it? We talked about this years ago. So, that's what we need, attribution. And let's face it, that we've got so much data and there's a lot of noise out there. I'll be honest, I've not seen many engagements in my time, and that's quite a bit of time, over the years, where you've got full, clear, determined attribution. I think at that level, there are very few tools that do it. And with the complexity of the environment these days, I would say that's very difficult. What is more robust, we find, and more fundamental, is actually scoring the elements in that user journey, and then understanding which bits are working and which bits aren't.
Yes.
So yes, you'd love to have full attribution. There's a lot of data and it's pretty complex, and I've not seen it utilized end to end very well very often. But actually, if you just play back scores of what's working and what isn't, and we keep a lot of the same way that Google's tried to turn page speed into just red, amber, and green. You do want fairly simple diagnosis and visualization to engage with teams better, because you've got to translate that data into insight, right, before you can then turn it into action. So you need to choose the right data, and our method of it is trying to pinpoint what we call the digital driver map. So it's part of our strategic model. So let's just talk through quickly sort of the anatomy of SEO. When we talk about SEO, there are things you can control. So you can control the tech, you can control the links, you can control the content, and then ultimately we apply the reporting. The one I used to love was that when people used to describe what's SEO, people used to say, oh, it's crap. Content, relevancy, accessibility, and popularity. Right, so content, yeah.
Yes.
Relevancy, yes, to keywords. Ability, got to get the website right, make sure the bot can get in. And then popularity, people using it, number of links. So crap's quite good, but it's a bit more rude. So we brought it down to tech, content, links, and reporting. So if you study each of those, you can control the tech and the website. So we score technical aspects and the SEO and content aspects. So for me, they're the upstream, and I would call them drivers. They're the things you can control. And you want to score those with the downstream measures, because why are you doing all this? Well, the causality is you want to get the website right and the content right, so then get position. If you then get position in search engines, that's going to drive your traffic. And then once you've got the traffic, that will convert, and then you can track behavior and goals on the end. So you're building a line of causality, cause and effect, of upstream things you can control and downstream things that you can't control directly, but absolutely you want to measure. So by doing that, we've built a driver map. We can understand what is working, what isn't. We can pinpoint the pains. We can work out what needs to be improved. And if you're doing that across a large number of websites, then you've got multi-website, and then we would then classify it as almost portfolio SEO, which is another difference to traditional SEO. If you're doing it across a large number of websites, it's a very different beast when you're trying to manage that kind of engagement. Managing one website can be quite hard, right? As soon as you have one or two people involved in a website, different logo on a page, can't agree what the messaging and content's going to be, and let's face it, content's quite hard to manage. Multiply this across the typical CMO's daily challenge, which is managing a portfolio of thousands of websites, and you've got teams of people running it, providing it, agencies crawling all over it. It's a very complex environment. So the best way to do that is turn the technology in itself. So that's what we do. We'll run off and use the technology to measure and score. We'll work out what needs to be fixed. We'll pinpoint the issues. Then the first part of the engagement is actually fixing that. So it's an audit, but it's an audit of all these websites to work out where we need to get the control, build this governance as a capability. And then once you've made the CFO happy that actually you've got control of the spend, and the CTO's happier because actually someone's listening to them about this website provision process and how difficult it is, then you can have a sensible conversation up to the CMO to say, right, okay, well, where should you promote it? What's the urgency? What's the priority website? And then we'll ask questions that challenge CMOs like, how many websites have you got? How many domain names have you got? What's your total traffic? And for me, the benchmark here is if you talk to COO, so how many retail stores have they got? They'll probably know.
Yeah.
And if you ask the head of HR, how many staff have you got? Right, they'll probably know. You ask your typical CMO, no offense to CMOs, but this is a difficult thing. How many domain names have you got? How many websites? Right? What's your percentage overlap between paid and natural search? What's the percentage effectiveness of the international SEO? Whoa. So we're getting into some pretty difficult, tricky SEO questions.
Yes.
One website. Apply that to a portfolio of websites. That's why you need the digital brand governance, so you can get a handle on the performance, rather than knowing that you're thinking your SEO spend or your paid search spend is ineffective. We're trying to build a strategic cross-channel management tool where it should provide you the visibility, then using SEO type metrics, but all digital marketing metrics, to properly understand and visualize what's going on, what's the driver map of your digital brand management to appeal to your customers, and then work out how to promote that to best effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything linear very rarely works, and it's great that you're sort of looking at as a portfolio management with all those websites for those large accounts. It's vitally important, but also that when you intersect that with all the other channels they use, all the other elements, it suddenly becomes very, very important. So, Richard,
and you can just not there, right? You can pretend, you're just an SEO paid search agency. You can pretend if you want, but that doesn't help the CMO. CMO needs a holistic solution, which is difficult at that level, but you've got to try and do that. You need these top-down models.
Very much so.
Try and do digital marketing bottom-up all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You need that top-down view. You need that bird's eye view of everything that's going on. What's converting, what's actually driving, as you say, the driver map in terms of all these different things. And sometimes that pivot 5 or 6 degrees by just understanding the data that you get back, it makes such a world of difference to changing copy on a web page, conversion on a web page, on copy, on content that you're producing and everything else like that. If you're writing about, blue widgets, and they're not converting, or they're converting a certain amount, but suddenly you find out what's going on a page on gold widgets, and you're not writing about them or whatever it may be. It's a very crude analogy, but they are, you shift your focus from the data that you get, and guess what? There's an impact that can actually be had from that data. So I totally get. Richard, we are going to have to round things off a little bit. This is just kind of part one. I encourage everyone to send in emails. Richard, what's your email address? Fantastic. And I'll put that in the show notes as well for this first part. But before we round off, we are going to talk a little bit about how you're using AI within Cressive. Yeah, you cannot not talk about it. But we're going to delve into a little bit more in part two. And this has been a really good sort of easing people into what it is that Cressive do, the importance of digital brand governance, and what it is, but also why it's important. We're going to drill into that a little bit more. Maybe if you're open to that, maybe share a case study with everyone next time round. And I encourage everyone to sort of email in or direct message us in any other questions, which we will address in part two, because I know it's a meaty subject, but it's also a very, very important subject. So why don't we round things before we have to say, just touch on a little bit about AI at the moment, when you first started sort of using it, what it is in terms of I know it's a broad church, and it's, people are tripping up over AI. They're adding AI. I remember back in the day, people used to add the .com boom and bust. There'd be a .com after everything, show my age, but it is now, AI is everything, and and it means different things to different people, but it's suddenly becoming part of the fabric. Can you touch on AI and then tell us a little bit more about that before we wrap up?
It's cruel to say round off with AI, isn't it? It's a whole podcast
by
itself.
Let's begin with AI as a part one.
Let's do the teasers.
Let's do the teasers.
The next
episode. That.
First of all, I think it's really important people actually understand what AI is, and most people don't. I don't fully, right? It's such a broad acronym. So when we say AI is going to change SEO or kill it, well, okay, let's try and break it down to things we can actually understand, because most of it we don't understand right now. I was lucky enough to do a breakfast briefing for Cressive the other day, where each quarter we try and update on things that have happened, how to react to algorithm changes, or things that are just going on. Cookie consent and bot traffic came up last quarter. The reason I mentioned it is because the morning we did it was the morning after Google's announcement of AI overview. So it's perfect timing. We hadn't thought about AI in a way. So generative experience, AI overview. There are so many angles to it. Let's just think first of all, though, about that impact of AI overview, because that'll be the tangible piece. You mentioned .com. People understand domains and .coms because they're tangible. You can see them. AI is very much what's in there somewhere. Well, we'll all see changes to search results. I was seeing it in the States. It's going to come through here. What's it going to look like? Well, actually, we don't know all about it yet, but it looks actually a little bit like a featured snippet to it.
Use that technical term. Do you just want to explain what featured snippet is to our...
Sure. Everyone understands search results. I often do this in a room, and I give guest lectures and things. I go, now, how many people use Google? And everyone puts their hands up, right? How many people really understand Google? And then there's a few more tentative hands. We all understand Google search results. Often if you type in something like, how old is King Charles? You'll get the little block of text at the top. Whether you call it rank 0 or featured snippet.
Yes.
It's that block of text where Google's not necessarily showing you someone else's search result, but it's choosing some text. So it's trying to answer the question so you don't have to go off to a website. Otherwise, search results is a list of other people's sites. You click and Google lose you in the experience. It's in Google's interest to keep you. So the feature snippet is good for Google, but if it answers your question fast and quickly, then it's good for everyone. That's the premise of featured snippet, that block of text. So that's been around for quite a while, and we have a module in the Cressive software that's, because we look at the search results, it highlights all those keywords that return a featured snippet. And another book story, that was a real flavor of the month. The featured snippets came in a few years ago. We built the module, and we found one of our clients, a very large pet food provider, sorry, about half their keywords returned a featured snippet in the end. It was really the flavor of the month. Google was showing it really everywhere it possibly could. And therefore, as SEOs, we went through and we re-engineered it. It was 42 words long and generally had a picture from Wikipedia and stuff like this. To try and work out then, well, if you knew what was going to be in a feature snippet, you'd re-engineer that and try and craft your content to get a feature snippet because you want to appear at the top. And it wasn't always the person who ranked at the top, number one ranking, traditional ranking. It could have been ranked number 1, 2, 3, or 4. But then Google would show it, and it's machine learning would check the click-through and then work out whether it should keep it there, etc. So very clever model. But that'd be the block of text at the top. Now, get back to the question. The AI piece, that looks like, at the moment, a bit like a feature snippet, right? So, but it's a generative piece where the AI technology has been used to go through the search results and then play back what it thinks is the appropriate answer to the question. Presumably then, crunching the data set that is all those websites underneath, and it might be the steps in a recipe, it might be all sorts of things. One we should talk about, Reggie, before I forget, is the green impact of AI technology too, because that's fascinating.
Indeed, yes, absolutely.
But we haven't got time for that now. So we're talking about just purely the presentation change. Now, so that's going to be one key aspect. That therefore, as a user, I use Google, I see my search results in return for a keyword or phrase. I see an AI overview, and then I can choose to then either potentially click on that, depending how Google wants to show the search results. But we've seen instances on our tracking so far, we've seen an AI overview at the top, and then even a feature snippet. And then you see the organic search results, which of course then have maps and all the other Google features. Yes. So therefore the organic results get pushed further and further down. And the SEO is dead. It just means actually the priority is to get the reported data to truly understand what's happening, not just in terms of what's being presented to the customer. And therefore we're measuring and scoring the visualization. So brand managers and CMOs can better manage the digital brand asset presentation, but also then how to craft content, how to sharpen up your website to best be attractive to those search results. Now, there's a lot of mystery then. No, it's much harder to re-engineer. We can't look at in the same way we looked at the feature snippet and guessed in the early days, 42 words long, include a picture, etc. We knew it had to be on a separate page. It was normally the first paragraph on that page. Pretty basic stuff compared to this SGE, the search generative experience.
Yeah.
It's harder to unpick that, re-engineer it. But if you think about it, it's still going to be, in principle, the same data set. Google data set will be everyone's websites out there. It's just going to be crunching it in a different way and presenting it in a different way. So we'll in time be able to analyze that. But at the moment, it's more about just trying to take a snapshot and measure it. Because as Drucker said, although his paper was famously misquoted, but let's go on the basis you need to better measure before you can manage it. And so for me, that's an integral piece. So it's the presentation of AI in the search landscape that we need to know best. But there are so many facets to this, as you know, Reggie, in terms of how you adapt to it, how you build it internally, externally. AI touches everything, and that's why we need to be so cognizant of its impact in the coming months and years.
Absolutely. What is Google's AI tool? Could they had Google was it Mind that they had? Then they had Gemini, and then there was so what is Google's AI? I know certainly OpenAI has ChatGPT and GPT models that run across these large LLM, large language models.
Right.
Google, which probably has an index, probably is the biggest large language model, but because there's so many other search engines that sit behind Google and underneath Google.
Yeah.
It's still indexing. Spiders are still indexing, half.
Bear in mind on this, everyone says, oh, it's a modern phenomena. Well, Google started using machine learning. I might get the date wrong here, but something like 2014. I mean, 10 years ago, we had a strong suspicion, and they confirmed that they were using machine learning to continually measure and monitor and improve search results, which makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why I think this whole chasing ambulances, the whole SEO leaks thing recently, and the SEO is going, oh, it's leaked. We know the 20,000 parameters. Yeah, be careful. And that's always been the case with SEO. As soon as you think you know which algorithmic parameter to appeal to, it's a bit of a folly just chasing it, because if Google changes it tomorrow morning, well, it's a lot of effort down the drain. You've always been better off just doing best practice, right? Make the best website,
absolutely,
good content. Which sounds boring, but it's hard enough work, and most clients struggle to do that anyway. And you'll be doing the right thing for the long term, because you want the good old days when we used to just get a few more links and rank the next morning. That doesn't happen anymore. Remember the good old days, Reggie?
I just about the dim and distant.
You're too young.
Yeah. Absolutely right. You can come again. It's constantly changing, and it will change again. We know that looking at the search results. I know that, and it's not a topic for right now, but Google search results. There was a perfect storm developed, because I think Google, and I read a great article by an SEO who had written about the demise of the quality of Google search results.
Whoa.
Google created a rod for its own back by trying to over-commercialize a lot of things. I mean, people just stopped using it. People stopped using, not fully, but they didn't use Google as much as they wanted. They were using TikTok for search. They were using Instagram for search. They were using different channels. And what they were doing was investing those other organizations into bolstering their search results and lots of other areas. There were affiliate sites that would take you off that were listing search results that seemed far more relevant than the swathe of results. I think they're now, there was a constant scrolling, wasn't there? There was, you never had an end of a page like you used to, where you had, the footer at the bottom with all the numbers.
Designed for mobile, so more people
designed for mobile, and now they're bringing that back, and they're bringing it back. So it's all.
I was searching for something this morning, and I started to go to the next page. Who clicks on the next page anymore? Google, but it changes all the time. So anyone to sit here and go, oh yeah, I know the impact of AI. The people inside Google don't know the impact of AI. They're all making up as they go along. They're all trying to chase the hype. They have to, otherwise their model is severely hit. So they need to be seem to react fast? Are they being reactionary? Then I think you're right. We get into the question about the quality of the content. Actually, is the quality of search results being impacted by this rush into the gold fields at the moment?
It's very much gold. Yeah, absolutely. It's a gold. And we, again, sort of without dwelling too much on all our historical knowledge, is that we've seen all this coming from the dot coms, from the early days of, I mean, who remembers MySpace? Who remembers Woolworths? Who remembers all these things that were so popular? Remember, NFTs were going to be the biggest thing. Everyone sort of piling into this shiny new thing. I'm not saying, the genie is at the bottom when it comes to AI, and it's permeated. But where it is and where it's going to be is as you rightly say, is an unknown, but also the dust is settling. The world is changing. We don't know the full impact of it. There's a lot of privacy issues, like you just touched on as well. There's a lot of green issues. The amount of data and energy that's been used.
Record companies been doing that huge collective lawsuit against the
content's a big issue. A lot of people are saying to Apple, absolutely. A lot of people are saying, well, I don't want to use Apple anymore. If they're going to use my data, OpenAI are going to use my data to look at my search history, look at the queries that we use, looking at all these other things. Though it helped Apple's stock price, the longer term, I know the European Commission, which is quite sharp on these things, will be looking at this, and also how it's impacting privacy rights, how it's impacting green issues, as you rightly say.
Oh, you wouldn't better wrap up on AI. Is it possible?
Yeah. It's impossible. But we will
I'll leave
touch
this
on
though, Reggie. Here's an idea as a summary of it. And that means we're going to leave all their detail for the next one. Here's my quick little piece, but AI is amazing. And if you want to do something as a convergent task, right, you want to write a letter in Italian, or you want to code hreflang tags or some CSS, brilliant. If you can go to a known data set and ask the clever processing to go and bring you back the structure, it's unbelievable. It's mind-blowingly impressive and powerful. And that should be embraced by everyone. It is, right? People are saving a lot of money now through those saving of processes. The issue I've got is on that divergent task. Where's anything vaguely generative and creative, labeling all this stuff as generative and generative search, I think you have to be a bit careful. I've received so many job applications where you just read an application and go, you used AI, right? It's generative. It's writing of something new isn't really good enough to pass the human test yet. And then you have all these legal issues and everything else about. So I'd leave you with that a thought, is that a lead into the whole podcast will be about AI. Divergent tasks, be a bit careful. I'm not sure about the generative stuff, but its power on convergent, known, structured tasks are unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a good point, as my brain is beginning to hurt a little bit. It's a good point to firstly say thank you so much for a very informative half hour, 40 minutes or so that we've had talking about all these things. They've been really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to part 2. Richard, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to having you back on again. Everybody, richard@cressive.com, and I'll put the details down. Please do send in some questions, and look forward to seeing you again. Richard, thank you very much. See you soon.
Thanks, Richard. It's been fun. We'll talk again soon, I hope.
Look forward to it. Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
And